Good morning from the Namib Desert in Namibia. For those who don't know me, my name is Dion and I'm just so passionate about photography. It's all about chasing that perfect light, capturing a moment in time to cherish and share forever. And as always, I'll be sharing a Lightroom Classic tutorial towards the end of the video. Hopefully this will add value to your photographic journey, inspire you, and hopefully pick up one or two tips along the way. Thanks for signing in again, and sit back, relax, and hope you enjoy this video with me. Folks, thanks for signing in and welcome to another free tutorial, Adobe Lightroom Classic editing tutorial. This image was taken in Northern Namibia on a recent photographic safari across Botswana, South Africa and Namibia. And this was an interesting portrait, late afternoon in the winter, dusty, some 3 rhinos, white rhinos, interacting with one another. And let's see what we can get from this image. So the first thing I did, I imported this video into Adobe Lightroom Classic by going File, Import Photos and Videos, select your file, and then hit the Development section over here. And the first thing I did do, with it being a raw image, you can denoise your image over down here in the details section. It's always advisable to capture all your images in RAW if you can. So what are we trying to achieve from this tutorial? What I'd like to bring in here is a bit more drama, a bit more mood, a bit more contrast, a bit more darker tone, some textures, and just bring in a bit more of an artistic flair to this portrait of this white rhino. Before I crop the image, I'm going to make adjustments to the entire image, and then from that we'll decide how we're going to see what the best crop is. But for now, let's just do basic global adjustments to the entire image to see and how we progress, and we'll decide. Once the edits come out, start shaping up, we'll actually be able to see what will be the best crop for this artistic portrait of the white rhino. The first thing I'd like to do is just a tip with elephants and rhinos, their hide. You need to really enhance the textures of the hide. It really brings out the detail. So what I want to do for a start, I'm actually going to create a mask and select the subject. And let's see what AI does. It's selected 3 of the rhinos here, which is pretty good. It's also selected a bit of the background here behind, which we want to remove. We can actually subtract that by, let's try by actually selecting objects. And in this instance, let's just color in the background as an object. I've never tried it this way. Let's see what it does. And it's done a pretty good job. Let's try it again. Select object and make the brush a bit smaller. Just tidy that up with a brush like that. Taking a bit of the horn away here, which I'm not too happy about. I'm just going to brush that back in. And you just go add brush, and we're just going to tidy that up a bit over here. Like that. So that'll be good enough. We can add in a bit of also down here. like that. Now we're really going to do is crank up the texture and the clarity as well, like that. So what we can see now, this is after the mask, the first mask being applied, before, after, before and after. While we've got the subject selected mask number 1, what I'd also like to do is enhance the blacks, just give them a little bit more drama and sort of mood. Let's lift the shadows a bit to the whiter side, and then just drop the overall highlights as well, slightly, like that. Alright, let's get out of the mask by just hitting edit, and that way it brings you back to the global adjustment. So whatever adjustments we're going to do now will affect the entire image. I'm just going to check the overall temperature here. There was some beautiful afternoon winter glows, and I just want to crank up the temperature a bit to see, and that looks a lot more like it was when I took the image, so I'm pretty happy with that. Next, what I'd like to do is introduce another mask, and this time we're going to select the background, and AI is going to select the background, which is done. It's again selected this part here, which we can just subtract using a brush, and we just want to brush that away. Just make sure your brush is set flow at 100 and your density to 100 and your feather at 100 as well. Just brush a bit away of that as well. Like so. And what we want to do with the background is I generally like to darken the background. So we are going to drop the exposure of the background ever so slightly, and once again I just want to play around with the temperatures and just bring out a bit of that winter afternoon glow. Right, now that we've done some basic global adjustments and 2 masks, it's time to crop the image. And what I like to do here is that this white rhino in the back here is obviously out of focus, and there's just too much of this information in the image, which is rather distracting. I like to focus on the main subject here and the horn from the second rhino, and possibly just a glimpse of the eye of the third in the background as a matter of just to give that bit of interest to the background. So we're going to go to the cropping tool over here, and we're just going to drag in the side to just for the eye of that one. I think we can take out this part of the leg of the main subject to about there to give it like a nice square image crop. I'd say about like that, and then hit edit. And I think that looks pretty good. Alright, before we do any further edits, we go back into the global adjustments and let's just correct the overall colors. We'll start down at calibrating all the colors, and I'll usually start down the bottom blue primaries, and just see, so this will tend to go a bit more to the right. We go these a little bit to the reddish side here, definitely to the right. Green primary hues, also I'd say to the right. Red primary saturation, definitely want to lift up the saturation and the hues. I'd say to about there, and the overall tint, shadows, a little bit more to the pinker side, like that. Now that we've done the calibration, we can go over to the color mixer and we start with the hues, and we start with the reds. They don't make much of a difference, but it tends to be a bit better on the left. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to go there. I'd say about there. The yellows a bit to the right. Greens, I'd say about there. Agua doesn't make much of a difference. The blues, there isn't much blue in the image either. Purples, no significant difference. Magenta, a little bit to the left. Then we go over to the saturation. Just remember, saturation is either going to increase the intensity of the colors, where luminance, the next one further down, either makes colors darker or brighter. So in the saturation, let's play around with the reds, increase those slightly, increase the oranges, a bit of the yellows. The greens are not going to make much of a difference, and the lights down. Let's just see the purple. Not really. Magenta, not much of an impact. And finally the luminance. Red doesn't make much of an impact. You can see here the orange just blows out the image, so just be cautious with that. We want to keep that nice mood, afternoon, winter mood there. The yellows as well, you don't want to blow out the highlights. But we could lift them slightly just to give a bit more detail on the highlights. Greens, not much of a difference. Aguas, blues, purples and magenta as well. Not making much of a difference there. So I'm pretty happy with that. The next thing I'd like to do, there's a bit of a haze with all the dust in this image, but I'd like to sharpen up the eye. And by doing that, we're going to create another mask. And in this type, we're just going to create a small little radial gradient and draw a circle around the eye and bring it into position. And what you want to do with this mask is mask number 4. Want to bring up the highlight slightly, lift the shadows a bit to the whiter side. We're going to increase the clarity and the sharpness as well, and defringe it to about there. Bring the noise reduction and moire down, and let's just see if we can lift the shadows a little bit more. And a little bit of contrast. So let's just zoom into the image. And you're going to be able to see now the eye with the mask before and after. So that is now after the mask being applied to the eye, and before and after, before the mask and after the mask. The next thing I like to do, we're nearly done, is getting back to the global adjustments by hitting the edit button over here to get out of the masks. And what I generally do as well is increase the overall vibrance to about there and go easy on the saturation to about 4. In this instance, I just really like those dark blacks, and we just want to accentuate those shadows and the shadows in the grain of the hide of the white rhino. So I'm just going to drop down these blacks and just see what it does, and I pretty like that. Just a final touch, getting back to the masks. First mask number 1 was the subject. Select that, and I think we could just bring up the exposure ever so bit, like I'd say to about there. Another final touch, we can get out of the mask and just go down to details, effects, and do a little vignette crop just on darken the outer edges of the image to give that overall focus on the main subject. And that is it for this basic tutorial. I hope you found it useful, and if you did, give me a big thumbs up. I'd really do appreciate it, and I'll see you soon in the next tutorial.